Welcome to Voices Against Violence, a Harmony House podcast to educate, empower, and serve as a voice for survivors. We aim to shed light on crucial issues surrounding domestic violence, offer support, and inspire action for change. Join us as we work together to create a community where all individuals can live a life free of abuse. Charity Jordan Rex, Prevention Program Manager for Harmony House.
Hi, everyone. Kirstyn Walker, Assistant Executive Director at Harmony House.
This month, April, is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And so all of our episodes this month are going to be related to that topic. And I am so excited to have in the room one of my personal favorite Springfieldians and just all around good human. But she is also a sexual violence preventionist. Welcome, Jenay.
Welcome, Jenay.
Thank you. Oh, this is so exciting.
Confetti in the background. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I should have brought my confetti. I do have a confetti popper. I should have brought it.
Next year.
We're not on camera, though.
But it's the sound of, you know.
We'll get Atticus to add it in later.
So, Jenay, tell us about what you do. What is your role?
Okay.
And what does your work involve?
All right. So my title is Sexual Violence Prevention Specialist at the Missouri Department of Health of Senior Services Office on Women's Health in the Division of Community and Public Health. Most of the job that I do day to day, Monday through Friday, is creating partnerships and maintaining partnerships statewide with agencies and organizations that are committed to preventing sexual violence in their scope of influence. In layman's terms, is I basically try to help, or I fund programs statewide to advance prevention in sexual violence and rape and sexual assault in our state.
Fun fact, if you are a faithful listener of this podcast and you enjoy what we do, Jenay here is who was responsible for this even happening, because she provided the funding that allowed us to get the equipment and do all the things that we need behind the scenes to even produce the podcast. Jenay.
That's marvelous. What a report out.
Like, it's so exciting. You're like the godmother of this podcast.
Wow. That's amazing. I don't know how to feel about that. For once, I'm speechless.
So, Jenay.
Yes.
April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. SAAM, it's called.
SAAM.
Tell us, how'd that get started? Where is this a new concept? Tell us more about SAAM.
So SAAM is, like you said, it's the Sexual Assault Awareness Month. It's an awareness month that got really kicked off about 25 years. And in fact, This year is 25 years we're marking. So to kind of take you back and how we all got started in SAAM, I have to take you back to the civil rights era back in 1940s, 1950s, when there was a quote, and I put it on here and I have it on my notes, where there was something that kind of stuck to me was, it's impossible to prevent an issue no one knows about, and it's difficult to make people aware of a problem without providing a solution. And this is kind of what was the guiding light, right, in that time. And so as you can kind of travel down to 1971, in San Francisco, there was the first rape crisis center, and then that was founded. And then 7 years after that, in the same town, right, so in San Francisco, was the first Take Back the Night event. And so that kind of started off with advocates in that area and protesters really trying to get funding and some federal legislation. And that's when we really built some momentum. And so VAWA was passed in 1993.
The Violence Against Women Act.
Right. And that is what kind of really sprungboard us into SAAM. And that's when we started in 2001 is when we actually founded SAAM.
Excellent.
So that was kind of a trip through time and how we kind of got here and what we're going to do. Hopefully we can talk about that more, what we want.
Well, and I appreciate you referencing just some major milestones. You brought up Take Back the Night, and I'm wondering if you will expand on what Take Back the Night is for maybe listeners who have not heard of that before.
Right. So Take Back the Night is, like I said, it happened in San Francisco in 1978, and that was basically a movement where folks didn't feel safe on the streets at night, mostly women. It could be some folks that were not women at the time, but they didn't feel safe. And so they wanted to do something to where they could empower themselves to take back the night, to take back their rights, to take back their freedom to walk outside whenever they wanted to. And I think that's why it's still prevalent, this event, this Take Back the Night to this day, because unfortunately, I don't think young people feel safe in their communities. And I think that's why, college campuses across the nation are really making this a signature event for April. Yes. For awareness. And I think that is, that's empowering for them and for those communities that are paying attention.
It absolutely is. It's a signature event. It's kind of that anchoring event a lot of times on college campuses or in communities with spoken word poetry and music and lots of times like marches and just all kinds of rallies happening at that Take Back the Night event. So does this year's Sexual Assault Awareness Month have a theme?
It sure does. It's looking back and moving forward. So
look at
here
us,
we
we're
are
already doing it. We're looking back at our 25 years and moving forward.
So I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to talk today and kind of talk to you all about how we're going to do this and where we've been and where we're about to go.
I'd like to back up just a little bit.
Sure.
So for the lay person who's listening, give us just an easily digestible definition of sexual violence. I mean, obviously it includes rape, but what is sexual violence?
Sexual violence is any act against another person against their consent. That could be her sexual harassment. That can be sexting. That could be posting nude photos on the internet. That could be verbal abuse. That could be financial abuse. That could be a menagerie of things, unfortunately. But I think really what most people may think, what are those acts? That could be, rape, sexual assault, stalking, domestic violence, interpersonal violence.
So 25 years of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, SAAM. Just in your professional experience, because even before this current role, you were still involved in violence prevention.
Yes.
And what does the landscape look like? I'm curious, in that 25 years, what are the trends? Are we trending down? Is it increasing? Are we seeing less reporting, more reporting?
That is a multi-prismatic question. So that also gets a multi-prismatic answer. A lot of factors have really come into play, and I'll say this. I've been in my role for 5 years at the State Health Department. Before that, I worked on a college campus implementing a bystander intervention program. And I can tell you that since the hunting ground, since 2016, since Lady Gaga at the Oscars, there's been more awareness of how pervasive the problem is. All right. And I'll say too, maybe there's more reporting because of that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there are resources to balance the amount. I'm using my hands. You can't see them, but it's a scale, right? So it seems kind of lopsided, and it seems like in the time that I've been doing this work, we've really folks that are in this field and that we've recruited and maintained to keep the interest to do this work. That is a thankless work. That is tiresome work that burns you out. We're still trying to stack the deck as much as we can.
I remember that being a constant conversation when I did sexual violence prevention education around the 2016 time. So, I mean, really at a time when there was a real turning point, it felt like, around the topic. You mentioned The Hunting Ground. If you haven't seen The Hunting Ground, phenomenal documentary. It came out around that time. But that was a constant conversation, was we saw an increase in reporting, but it was not necessarily reflective of an increase in incidents. It was that we had language now to talk about things that we had experienced, and in a way to report them in ways that we hadn't considered them to be sexual violence before. There was just kind of a status quo almost of that's just the way it is. And once people got access to that language, that's when we really saw an uptick. So is that kind of the multi-prismatic thing that you're talking about?
Yeah. And I think there's the elements of other agencies, whether that be like local or statewide, trying to like interweave their goals with those things, right? So I think that has helped with the awareness, but it's, domestic violence is an isolation thing. That's one thing that kind of sticks in my mind of like, we've really got to kind of tackle that.
I do feel like there's more awareness, and I feel like just based on what I see in the news and people talking about, I feel like there's more reporting, but I do not feel like prevention has improved.
Right.
I'm thinking of a story that someone told me, and they work on a college campus, and they heard campus security talking to, I think, a sorority, and it was a group of young women about sexual violence prevention, and it involved things like, take a partner with you when you're walking at night, and don't wear your headphones when you're running so that you can hear what's going on. That is not sexual violence prevention. Jenay, tell us, what does prevention look like?
Prevention looks like everybody taking responsibility and everybody doing one thing, right? And it can be small or big, but you have to take responsibility that you are part of this and you're part of the solution, and that everybody has to do it in some kind of capacity. There has to be a sense of belonging and community for prevention to flourish. And if you don't have that, then you just have prevention.
So it sounds like what you're talking about is bystander intervention, right? Recognizing that we have a personal responsibility to end sexual violence as a whole, as a society, as a culture. Can you talk to us more about what bystander intervention looks like? What is that? You said it could be big, it could be small.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
So bystander intervention is really just an individual deciding that when they see something that isn't right with them, that doesn't sit right, to do something. And whether that is distraction or delegation or being direct, or maybe they couldn't do anything at that point, but they could do something after the fact. Knowing that everybody has a responsibility to do that. Part of our job as preventionists is to give folks the tools to do those things, and it's up to them to decide what they're comfortable in doing in that point,
and what's safest to be done.
Right.
Because maybe being direct in that moment isn't safe, but distraction is. And when you're saying doing something, it sometimes is addressing the behaviors that perpetuate violence, because we know violence exists on a spectrum, and so maybe it's just addressing a harmful joke or a stereotype or something that is degrading, because we know that type of language contributes to attitudes and beliefs that make sexual violence a part of the culture, the norm.
Right. Yeah, it's that complacency of, well, somebody else will do it. And I think I get so much hope from young adults, young people, especially school-age folks. They really have a knack for reading the room, noticing the room, and they really have that core belief of like community. And for whatever reason, I feel like as we get older, as adults, we get very much into this. I didn't see it. It's not my problem.
Yeah.
And I want to bring us back to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure how, but I know that that could be one thing that could impact prevention work in a positive way.
Sure.
I saw a quote recently. I can't even remember where I saw it now, but it said something like, you may not be the person who, and I'm paraphrasing here, but you may not be the person who caused the harm. And so it's not about feeling guilty and, like I didn't do it, but it's about what are you doing to maintain the systems that are in place? And so I think about, so much I think about, okay, young people, like, how are we talking to young people? Are we telling girls that they need to dress modestly and cover up because otherwise boys are going to be distracted? Or are we saying, telling kids like you are in control of your actions and your responses? Are we teaching young people how to respect boundaries and consent and to see consent as information rather than a personal rejection? So I feel like even if you aren't kind of in the right place at the wrong time, or maybe where you're witnessing an incident, I feel like there are lots of other ways that you can be preventing it, and how you talk about this and how you talk to your children.
Disrupting the norm.
Yes.
Disrupting the norm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the norm.
Okay.
So what's at the root? I read a great article. It really talked about what's at the root of sexual violence, gender-based violence. And essentially it is, the objectification and the dehumanization of everyone. And I wonder, like, what are your thoughts on that? And what does that look like? And what's the connection between us maybe dehumanizing girls and women to just sex objects and that leading to sexual violence? Can you help us connect those dots?
Yes. I'm going to do this the public health way.
Okay.
When I think about the risk factors, meaning like the things that lead to behaviors in which we're talking acts of sexual violence happen, I think about folks where their needs aren't being met and they probably generationally have not had their needs met. So when I think about how women are perceived, I think about how that there's another side of the story and that there is the perpetrator or the behavior onto this individual, and meaning the individual as the girl or as the woman. This whole thought of one is better than the other, and not true equality, not true health equity, but really seeing folks as a human and not as an object. I think about how the latter gets to that. And I think there's things in which their lives have been traumatized and they're therefore hurt people. Okay. Okay. That's where I'm getting to, is like hurt people. All right. And if that is your normal and you are indoctrinated in that, then how do you know, if you know nothing else, how are you to not conduct yourself in any other way? And I get to that by the isolation of that behavior is learned, and it's learned by the people that they're with, okay, which are usually their family members. And that's what I mean by generations not getting their needs met. This is why these are like risk factors of like poverty, of this complacency attitudes of like violence against women. We think about other risk factors of like high density of alcohol outlets, right? We think of the lack of law enforcement presence. You can maybe give or take on that last one, but really, the lack of protective factors in that person's life. Okay, that's really what I'm trying to get to, is the lack of protective factors. Protective factors are things that build quality in someone's life. So protective factors of connectedness, protective factors of support for mental health, protective factors of resources for and access to healthcare, right? And affordable and quality childcare. Oh man, get me started on that one day.
I'll give you some snaps.
Man, that would be a dream, is if we could really provide at the state free quality childcare throughout the state of Missouri. That is like a dream. I really think if we could do something like that, we could really start to see some of those behaviors really start to take a tick down.
I really love kind of getting into doing a deep dive on risk factors and protective factors. I talk about that in my work when I'm out talking to groups, because I know, and I've gotten this question like, oh, this is something that happens, and I know people feel this way about sexual violence too. That's something that happens in urban areas, and that's not happening. And so those risk and protective factors help to explain why we see so many different societal issues here in Southwest Missouri, which I heard someone describe, feels like a big Mayberry. And why, even though, places like Kansas City or St. Louis, or even much bigger cities like, let's say, Chicago or LA, they're also seeing violence, of course, but they also have more of those protective factors. So it's a matter, like you said, balance, so we have a lot of risk factors here in this part of the state.
Yeah.
And we just don't have as many of those protective factors.
Yeah.
And also you broke that down like at an individual level, so that individual being connected to safe, healthy, supportive people, but it also happens at the societal level. What do protective factors look like at a community or society level?
So protective factors, and really in community and societal, when we're talking about the sociological model, we're really thinking about community-led strategies where communities create collectives, whether that be by region of their city, neighborhoods, groups, neighbor groups, student groups, selecting strategies meaning programming, meaning campaigns, meaning awareness, providing resources, providing services. That is looking more where those folks, that collective makes a decision to better their community, and it's on them to really kind of drive that idea. Societal stuff is like laws, policies, stuff that I can give you all education about, like how that would really impact. And then so folks from your agencies and from other agencies can go to Capitol Days on behalf of you all, and equipped with education from my department, to really influence legislatures about why it's so important that we need to be providing quality and low, quality childcare throughout the state, providing transitional housing for those that are displaced, providing, this is going to blow people's mind, connecting sidewalks.
Oh my goodness.
Connecting sidewalks is a protective factor. Can you imagine?
Don't even get me started. There's a whole soapbox that I can go on. Transportation.
Here we are.
Yeah. I think about, you mentioned a little bit ago about things like healthcare access. And I think about someone who told me recently they were trying to access some mental health resources, and the specific kind of service that they needed, they were going to have to be put on a wait list. And that wait list is 1.5 years long.
Yeah. That's unreal. That should never happen.
Yeah. I think about a friend too who had experienced some sexual violence, and she did all the right things in terms of reporting, and she went to the hospital and got the, met with the SAAM nurse and got the exam and did the whole thing. And then a detective came to her and said, we found the person, and we just want to keep you abreast of what's going on. It's going to be 2 years before they can test that rape kit.
Right.
So we can sit on this for 2 years. What do you want to do? And so she decided not to proceed because she wanted to get on with her life, she wanted to be able to put it behind her. I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit. Maybe we often do a little bit of myth busting. I wonder if you can maybe bust a couple of myths here.
Sure.
Why would someone not report? Or why would someone,
Listeners here probably watch The Pit, right? Surely.
I've heard of it, but I've never watched it.
All right. Well, I only watched one episode. It's the one and it was the one based on the SAAM exam. I'm not kidding, right? Because our nurse on staff is a SAAM, a certified SAAM instructor. The reasons why people don't want to do it is I'll tell folks right now, when you intend to present at a hospital to get your exam done, get ready to bring your water, find a way to get there first, and then you're going to be there for about 4 hours, friend.
It's in depth.
It's very comprehensive. Yeah. We're talking about, verbal testimony. I mean, you've got specimen, specimen. We're talking taking your clothes. We're talking this is pretty, this is not a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. This is serious business, and it's very intimidating. It is very demoralizing. That has never happened to me before. I can't imagine what that's like. I cannot imagine. So when you think about that, how the person gets there, knowing that it's going to take as long as it is, knowing that the clothes that are on your back are not going to be the ones you leave with.
Right.
I can imagine that folks would not go all the way through with reporting, even if they knew the person, even if they know that after that exam, unfortunately, they're going to go back and see that same person that just assaulted them. I can't imagine.
What are some, we've kind of touched on some points regarding this, but what are some of the most effective ways in reducing and preventing sexual violence?
It's really got to be educating folks and folks being open to wanting to know more. And it doesn't matter how young you start. I know we might want to talk on consent, but really kind of as adults modeling the behavior and what you want to see in your community, right? So I remember when I was in kindergarten, they told us to stand in line and keep our hands to ourselves. For whatever reason, I don't know why, but you become an adult and those rules are out the window. I don't understand that. I'm still trying to figure that out as a preventionist. When did that click? When, now I don't have to abide by the rules of school, of the things I learned in school. Mm-hmm. So when I think about prevention and going back to what we're going to have to do to really get it going, we really have to make sure that folks are equipped with the knowledge to understand what it is to witness it. We also need to equip them with the knowledge of where to be the helpers, where they can get the help, where the help is, and be knowledgeable of where those resources are. Here's the other thing. That's kind of tiresome because resources come and go. Mm-hmm. And in urban areas, great agencies, unfortunately, or nonprofits or not-for-profits lose funding and then they're gone and that service is gone. And so really identifying key stakeholders that can really invest in those kinds of agencies, in those services, to make sure that those are ongoing services for wraparound care. That's really what we really need to really help with kind of pushing that prevention forward. But we've really got to get folks to know what it is, and we really got to empower them to do something.
So a few times in our podcast, and then once off mic, we talked about like how tiresome this work is. And so I'm curious, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you hopeful to do this work?
I think what helps me is knowing that I'm impacting someone's life in some kind of way, positively, hopefully. And that could be my neighbor. That could be my friend. That can be somebody that lives on the Iowa-Missouri state line, right? Like it could be anyone. And really, if I can be so candid, I just being in the Office on Women's Health, I really want to advance women's care in our state because it's not great. And I really want to make sure that although I have a son, I want to make sure that there's girls and women in his life that they can have access to the care that they need. And I truly think that once we understand that and we really can advance women's health, that is also part of the hope for us to really start advancing prevention in the state, because let's face it, that is violence against women when we can't provide quality health care for them in our state.
In your answer about what makes you so hopeful, I keep reflecting back on the SAAM theme of the month of looking back but moving forward. So
right.
I can hear that in your answer about your hopefulness.
I feel like we're in such a tough moment right now as a society when it comes to this, with high profile stories that are in the news. And so I look forward and I just think, oh my goodness, like, what are we, like, where are we going? What is this? I mean, what do you think this looks like in the future? What kind of world do you think your son is going to grow up in? Do you think we will have figured this out by then? Do you think we will have made some progress?
Yeah, we've made total progress. Absolutely. We'll make more progress, I think, than where we are now. And the reason why is because working in this field is hard because we're volunteering our time. Not a lot of us get paid to do this work, all right? There's like less than a handful of us. And to do this work and to do it effectively and do it well, we really have to find others, right? Like Mr. Rogers says, right?
Look for the helpers.
We got to look for the helpers. And I think that, and of course, I've got a young son. And so that really kind of keeps me grounded and knowing that there's always been hope. There always will be hope. And whether you are like a small little flame that's like burning your little hope flame, or you're a big bright, like bonfire hope flame, whatever that is, that collective hope is part of this resistance against violence, right? And that is like what's gonna, like, we will rise, like a metaphor, like we're gonna be like the phoenix that rises through, like rising through the ashes, right? Like, and I feel like it does feel it in this time, it feels as though everything is burning, and it is burning. It all is burning. But you have to give yourself permission. You have to give yourself the permission to claim your hope and say that this is mine. I will burn it the way I want it. I will attract other likes, right? Finding those other partners to do this work. And that is what's going to keep us, that is the fuel. That is the propane, you know what I mean? Like that's what kind of stokes the fire. And that is kind of our Yule log, so to speak, our 25-year Yule log, right? Is still going to keep burning 25 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's just, we have to keep kind of stoking that fire. We have to find the people that are still doing this work, whether that is like little pockets of hope, right? Like this food pantry person does this every day, like every week, right? Like that person is hope, right? Like, and this person that does this small business person owns a laundromat, so they're going to have free laundry days, right? For their community, right? Like that's another hope. Like, so I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about this, because I'm like, this is kind of how we create the hope and how we create partners. And so we've also have to maintain that. And that's where the tired comes from.
Yeah.
Is maintaining those partnerships and those relationships, and making sure and giving them the permission of like, you're doing great work. It's not going unnoticed. Continue, like really giving that energy back instead of really kind of taking it away. So.
And the act of holding hope in and of itself is disruptive to oppressive norms. Like we're talking about changing the norms, and that in and of itself is radical.
Totally. So I hope you're all picking up what we're putting down here.
I talk about just an infusion of hope this afternoon. Thank you so much. And just to keep your fire stoked. And I mean, thank you for the work you do. It's not going unnoticed. We see it. Please keep carrying that torch for sexual violence prevention. We are just so thrilled to have gotten a chance to talk to you about this today.
Hey, podcast listeners. You're invited to be a part of the most iconic event in Springfield, the Purple Party. The 11th annual Purple Party returns Friday, April 17th at the Oasis Hotel and Convention Center for the iconic 1980s themed celebration. Join us as we honor 50 years of hope in our community. Tickets are on sale now. Don't miss this meaningful night. Head to myharmonyhouse.org/events today to learn more.
All individuals have a right to a life free of abuse. If you or someone you know needs help, please call our 24-hour hotline, 417-864-SAFE, 417-864-7233, or chat 24/7 with an advocate on our website at myharmonyhouse.org. Visit our website or follow us on our socials to stay up on the latest news and events. This is Voices Against Violence. Thanks for listening.